The shrimp was barely warm when she snapped her fingers. Red, not white. You know that, Zerelda. I held the wine bottle in my hand, still cold from the fridge. For years I would have smiled, topped her glass, and nodded like I was invisible. But tonight, something in me, maybe the quiet ache in my shoulder, maybe the letter from the doctor still in my purse, just refused. No, I said, placing the bottle firmly on the table. Serve it yourself. The silence hit like a dropped plate. My son Damon looked up from his steak fork, still midair. Her eyes narrowed like I'd slapped her. Excuse me, she said with that sugary venom she saves just for me. I didn't repeat myself. And that's when Damon moved. Fast like he always was on the field in high school. Except now, it wasn't a football in his hand, it was the ceramic salad bowl. He launched it across the table without a word. It smashed into my face with a dull crack lettuce and vinaigrette flying across the tablecloth. Pain bloomed instantly, a sting slicing across my cheek. The edge must have cut deep. I felt the warmth trickling down my skin, smelled the tang of vinegar mixing with blood. I staggered back, catching the edge of the buffet for balance. Nobody moved. Nobody said a word. Except her. She leaned forward, eyes half-lidded, and whispered under her breath with a curl of her lip. Servants should know their duties. I looked at my son. He didn't even meet my eyes. The blood was warm as it traced down my jawline. I watched it drop onto the collar of my blouse, a slow stain spreading where no one had placed a hand to help. From behind me, I heard the scrape of Damon's chair. For a second, I thought maybe he'd come over, maybe he'd realize. But no. He just picked up a napkin, wiped his fingers, and kept chewing. She, Cambria, didn't even flinch. Didn't gasp, didn't move. She took another sip of wine, tilted her head, and smiled like I was the one who'd made a scene. I turned, slowly walked past the table without a word, without touching the bottle still sitting unopened. I heard no footsteps behind me. Only forks clinking again. Like nothing had happened. Like I was the stain. Upstairs, my hands didn't shake right away. Not until I saw myself in the mirror. The cut was deeper than I thought. A red line from cheekbone to chin, angry and fresh. My skin was already beginning to swell. I grabbed a towel, pressed it against the wound. Blood soaked through fast. I stared at it, then grabbed my phone. The flash went off once, then again. A close-up of the cut, the towel, my blouse. I turned my head to show the angle of the impact. Another click. Proof. I emailed the photos to myself, then uploaded them to the cloud. Labeled the folder. June dinner incident. Still no knock at the door. No voice from my son. Not even a text. I rinsed my face, the sting sharp enough to make me wince. I kept the bloodied towel. Folded it. Placed it in a plastic freezer bag I pulled from the drawer. Labeled that too. Date. Time. Location. I sat on the edge of the tub and listened. The laughter had returned downstairs. Softer now. The kind people save for each other after the problem leaves the room. My cheek throbbed. But something else had started to pulse deeper. Not pain, not yet rage. Something colder, quieter. A plan pressing itself into place. The towel on the counter was still red-streaked when I sat back on the edge of the tub, light-headed but calm. My face stung, but it wasn't the worst pain I'd ever felt. Not even close. The worst pain was pawning the bracelet he'd proposed with the delicate gold one, with the tiny sapphire. I remember the jeweler weighing it with barely a glance, handing me a check that barely covered Damon's first semester of college. He'll pay you back, I'd told myself. He never did. He never even asked how I managed it. After Marcus died, I picked up night shifts at the diner on Route 6. Hostess at 60. Feet swollen, back aching, I'd come home and scrub the bathroom before sunrise just so they wouldn't have to. I told myself it was temporary. Until Damon got on his feet. Then came the house. Cambria wanted something near the golf course, a starter home with a patio, big enough for entertaining. I drained most of my retirement savings for their down payment. A gift, I'd called it, for their future. No one asked where the money came from. I moved into the basement 2 months later, just to help out, just until they got settled. I did laundry, groceries, cooked when Cambria had her migraines, picked up packages, kept my door closed during their parties. I told myself it was enough to be needed. Then came the baby. I stayed up through teething fits, walked miles with a stroller, skipped doctor visits to pay for diapers when Cambria lost her job for 6 weeks. No one said thank you. They said I was being dramatic when I cried after being left off the baby's birthday guest list. And now she snaps her fingers for wine. And my son, my baby boy, throws a bowl at my face when I say no. I looked at myself in the mirror again. This time, I didn't see a mother. I saw a woman who had given everything and gotten nothing in return. And I stood up, finally ready to do something else. The next morning, I woke to silence. No apology through the door. No knock. Just the soft hum of the air conditioning and the faint clatter of dishes downstairs. My cheek had stiffened overnight, the swelling tender now a faint reminder every time I moved my jaw. I opened my laptop almost by instinct. I hadn't touched it in weeks. Too many chores, too much noise. But today, I needed something. I needed to see how bad it really was. There was still one account with my name on it, the old joint account Damon and I opened years ago, back when we agreed to keep it for emergencies only. I logged in expecting it to be mostly dormant. It wasn't. 3 pages of transactions, regular withdrawals labeled mortgage, auto pay every month for nearly 2 years. The amounts weren't small. He never told me. Not once. I felt the heat rise not from anger, but from clarity. They had never asked because they assumed I'd never check. And I hadn't. Until now. I opened the county assessor's website, typed in the property address. When the file pulled up, I scanned down the page, heart thudding. Owner of record Zerelda Vaughn. No lien, no cosigners, no transfers filed. The house was still mine. Fully. I sat back. Let that settle. They needed me. They needed my credit, my name, my money, but they moved through the house like I was a relic, something to work around. An old appliance they hadn't gotten around to replacing yet. Cambria with her curled lip and lazy commands. Damon with his silences that struck harder than the bowl. They forgot who held the foundation they walked on. I clicked to download the latest bank statements, saved the PDFs in the same folder as the photos from last night. Then I opened a second tab county clerk's office. It was time I requested the full deed packet, just in case. Downstairs, I heard the baby laugh. And then Cambria's voice. I think she'll come around. She always does. I didn't move. I just clicked print. The deed packet arrived in my inbox just after noon. I clicked through each page confirming what I already knew, but needed to see in black and white. My name. No joint ownership. No transfers filed. No updated beneficiaries. All still mine. I opened my contacts and scrolled until I found it James Felton-esque. It had been years since I'd spoken to him. He handled our will when Marcus passed. Handled the trust when Damon was too young to manage what his father left him. I typed slowly, but deliberately. Need to transfer deed back to my name alone. Quietly. Can we meet? I hit send. Then I opened the folder on my desktop, June incident. I added the photos, close-ups of the cut, the side angle with the bruising, the stained towel. I annotated each one in the notes section. Occurred during domestic dispute. No witnesses intervened. Physical object used by adult son. Witness daughter-in-law. No aid given. I saved it all, backed it up to a flash drive, and slid it into the lining of my purse. Not for revenge, not yet, but to protect myself because no one else had. My phone buzzed. Damon, Mom? Can we talk? I didn't mean it. I stared at the message. The words just sat there, weightless. He didn't mean it, but he never checked on me, never asked if I was okay. Not even once after he drew blood from the face that kissed him every night for 20 years. He meant it enough to do it. He meant it enough to keep eating dinner while I bled. I didn't respond. I just turned the phone over, screen down. A minute later, another message buzzed in. Then another. Cambria's worried about you. Are you mad I closed the phone completely and powered it off? Then I reached for the manila envelope beside me, slipped the printed bank statements inside, and sealed it with a line of tape. Outside my window, the sprinkler tapped against the glass like rain. The house felt still, but something underneath had already started shifting. James didn't ask many questions. He didn't have to. The photos and bank records spoke loud enough. We met at his office on Tuesday morning. 2 cups of coffee, a folder of documents, and a quiet nod that told me everything was underway. By Thursday, it was done. The deed was fully secured in my name alone, clean, final, irreversible. That evening, I opened a blank document and began typing. Effective immediately, you are given 30 days to vacate the premises. This property is legally owned solely by Zerelda Vaughn. Failure to comply will result in formal eviction proceedings. Legal documentation enclosed. I printed 2 copies. One went into a white envelope, along with copies of the deed and James's notarized letter. The second I kept for my records. It was nearly midnight when I slid the envelope under their bedroom door. I didn't wait around. I went back to my room, closed the door, and turned the lock with a soft click. Then I folded towels just for myself. For once, no extra sets, no baby bibs, no monogrammed hand towels Cambria insisted I iron. Just 2 thick cotton bath towels and a set of washcloths, neatly stacked. It was Cambria's voice that broke the silence. A shriek from down the hall, high-pitched and echoing through the walls. "What is this?" I didn't answer. Then came Damon, pounding once. "Mom, can we talk? This is a mistake." I kept folding. Shirts, socks. Just mine. More pounding. "Mom, please, don't do this." But I'd already done it. I heard the shuffle of papers being picked up. Her muttering something about calling someone, maybe a lawyer of their own. He muttered back, lower tense. I laid one last towel in the drawer, then turned off the light. They had 30 days. 30 days to pack the dishes I once bought them for Christmas. 30 days to walk the floors I mopped. 30 days to figure out where they'd go next. And not one more. The real estate agent, Angela, was punctual and professional. She didn't flinch at the bruise that was still faintly visible beneath my concealer. She shook my hand firmly, glanced at the deed and said, "Let's get started." Within a week, the photographer came. He had a drone for aerial shots and a wide-angle lens that made the kitchen I'd once scrubbed on my knees look like it belonged in a magazine. I didn't stage anything. Let them see the house as it was, half-packed boxes in the hallway, wine stains on the table, the chipped salad bowl still shoved behind the pantry door. The online listing went live on Friday morning. By Sunday, we had 3 scheduled showings. I brewed my coffee that afternoon as 2 couples and a young woman walked through their living room. Cambria glared from the top of the stairs, arms crossed, face red. Damon paced the hallway like a guard dog with no teeth. I didn't speak to them. I offered bottled water to the visitors instead. The young woman asked about the age of the roof. 7 years, I said. I replaced it after the hurricane. Insurance paperwork's in the folder. She smiled and nodded. "It's a solid property," Damon finally snapped. "You can't do this," he growled, stepping into Angela's path. "This is harassment. This is still our home." Angela raised an eyebrow, then held up the signed deed. "No, sir," she said, clear and firm. "This property is owned solely by Ms. Vaughn. You're occupying at her discretion. You're not on the title. You're not on the sale. And if you interfere with showings again, I'll have to file for obstruction." Cambria's jaw dropped. Angela stepped around them both and continued her tour, noting light fixtures and cabinet finishes. I stood at the kitchen counter, coffee in hand, watching it all unfold, not with glee, but with something steadier. Something earned. That evening, I received 3 offers, one of them in cash, over asking. I sat down at the table, opened my laptop, and began my reply. The video surfaced 3 days after the second open house. I didn't record it, but someone else had Angela's assistant, maybe, or one of the prospective buyers. Damon's face filled the frame, red with rage, shouting at Angela, while she stood calm with her clipboard. Behind him, Cambria's voice screeched about lawsuits and our rights. The clip went viral on a local news site under the headline, "Couple Harasses Agent at Open House." By Wednesday, Damon's firm released a terse statement. "We do not condone employee misconduct." He was placed on leave, then terminated by the end of the week. Cambria's father, who had co-signed one of Damon's business ventures, quietly withdrew his support. The project folded. Their friends stopped calling. Even Cambria's social media went silent. No curated brunch photos, no staged family shots. I didn't gloat. I didn't even feel satisfaction. Just a dull, steady quiet. I began to pack. Not because I was afraid, because I was leaving. Each night after work, while they argued downstairs about damage control, I folded my own clothes into 2 neat suitcases. I wrapped the framed photo of Marcus in an old sweater. My documents went into a fireproof bag tucked at the bottom of my duffel. The flash drive with the bank statements and photos of my injury slipped into my purse next to my keys. I had already signed the lease on a small condo near the marshes. 2 bedrooms, plenty of light, no one snapping their fingers for wine. Angela had even connected me with the seller, a retired teacher who left fresh herbs on the windowsill. On the last night before closing, I stood in the kitchen one final time. Damon's voice drifted from the living room, low and hoarse. Cambria muttered about lawyers, her words brittle. Neither of them looked up when I passed. I stepped outside, inhaled the heavy Georgia air, and closed the door gently behind me. I left before the sun came up the street, still wrapped in mist. The movers had already taken my boxes the night before, leaving only a few pieces of furniture and the echo of my footsteps in the hallway. I walked through the kitchen one last time, the counters spotless, the smell of last night's argument still faint in the air. On the table, I placed an envelope addressed to James with the house keys inside. Next to it, a single sheet of paper folded once. I smoothed it flat, the words steady in my own handwriting. You chose who I'd become. Now I choose who I'll be. I didn't sign it. They would know. I closed the front door quietly, pulling it shut, like a curtain on a stage that had been running the same play for decades. The lock clicked softly. Final. The drive to the condo was silent, except for the hum of the tires. No calls came through my phone, still off, sealed in my purse, with the flash drive and the last of my old life. The marshes rolled past glints of silver water in the pale light. When I unlocked the door to my new place, the air smelled like fresh paint and salt from the nearby river. Boxes lined the walls, but the rooms felt open, like I could breathe again. I unpacked slowly, starting with the framed photo I'd taken of my injury. The cut on my cheek captured in harsh light the bloodied towel below. I hung it on the wall near the window where the morning sun fell. Beneath it, I slipped a small card into the frame. Proof and a promise. I stepped back and looked at it, no longer just a wound, but a marker of where I'd stopped being their shadow. Then I unpacked my coffee mug, filled the kettle, and opened the blinds. The day ahead was waiting, and I was ready to meet it on my own terms. The table was smaller, just 6 chairs. No chandeliers, no polished hardwood floors, no pretenses, but it was mine. I lit the candles myself, unscented, simple. The roast chicken had crisped perfectly in the oven. The salad was fresh from the Saturday market, and the coffee cake cooling by the window carried a warmth I hadn't felt in years. Across from me sat Lila, the student I'd met through the community mentorship program. She had a full scholarship now, her first semester, already buzzing with stories. Next to her, Mrs. Rains from 2 doors down, who always helped carry my groceries when I came back from the co-op. And at the far end, Michael, my lawyer friend, who'd insisted I invite someone, in case anyone tried to crash. We laughed about it. They brought their own dishes. Someone poured wine, but no one demanded it. No one snapped their fingers. No one raised their voice. We just talked about plans, about funny stories from work, about where Lila might intern next summer. I watched them laugh, pass food, say thank you. No one even looked at me like I owed them something. Halfway through dessert, someone asked what I'd hung in the hallway, the framed photo. I just smiled and said, a reminder. They didn't press. They didn't need to. When the plates were cleared and the coffee was poured, I raised my glass not because someone told me to, not because anyone expected it, but because I wanted to. To quiet beginnings, I said. And to the table, you build with your own hands. The clink of glasses was soft, but certain. Later that night, when the last guest had left and the candle smoke curled toward the ceiling, I stood alone in my kitchen. No dishes left in the sink. No raised voices behind the wall. Just me and peace. And as I turned out the lights, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the glass, upright, steady, and unafraid. The woman I'd fought to become was finally standing at her own table.